My name is Nicole Swanson, and in this presentation we will analyze consumer taste preference for Sprite and Shasta Twist. We conducted this taste test experiment in order to determine how consumers' preference affects purchases in the industry. The experiment was performed on Dr. Adams' price analysis class outside the Noble Research Center. Each student was handed a survey for instructions and a means of recording preferences. The two questions we addressed through this experiment were: in a blind taste test where the student does not know which soda they are tasting, what is their preference for each soda? And in a setting where the soda is the same, but the student associates the identical soda with the two different soda cans, what is their preference for each soda? We asked these questions in order to determine if the consumer associates better taste with a higher price or a more appealing label. This research can help consumers make better shopping decisions by providing evidence showing generic brands are just as appealing or quite similar to the original brands. The products for the experiment were set up on the side of the Noble Research Center in order to prevent Dr. Adams' class from viewing aspects of the experiment that may cause them to alter their surveys. In order to control for taste preferences, we provided an even amount of Sprite and an even amount of Shasta Twist in identical white styrofoam cups. Each cup was separated on trays at identical distances with a post-it containing either a circle or a square. In order to control for taste preference based on labeling, we funneled either Sprite only or Shasta Twist only in a Sprite and Shasta Twist can. Each can was separated on trays at identical distances with a post-it in the middle containing letter A, B, C, or D. Each new tray was brought to its appropriate table by one of Dr. Norwood's students. These measures allowed for controlled and randomization of the experiment. As the experiment began, each student was handed randomized surveys made up of version A or version B, which would direct them to the proper table. Dr. Norwood's students assured that Dr. Adams' students did not interact while performing the experiment and that they followed all directions accurately. Before going to the proper table, each student was asked to answer questions 1 through 3, which asked, of the two drinks, which one do you like the most, which one do you like the least, and how certain is his or her preference of these two drinks. The survey then asked them to go to either the orange or black table. Here is an example of the next step, which asked them to answer questions 4 based on what shape was present on the post-it in front of them. He or she would then answer question 5 by tasting each cup and recording how the soda appealed to him or her. Here is video coverage showing the taste test preference. The survey then directed them to the other table for the second test. The next step asked him or her to answer question 6. Like this example of the survey, it asked for him or her to select which letter was present on the post-it in front of them. He or she would then be asked to taste each can and record the soda's appeal to him or her in question 7. Here is some video coverage showing Once done with the taste test, each survey ended with question 8 through 9 asking how often he or she drinks sugary drinks, how often does he or she drink Sprite or Shasta Twist, and what is his or her gender. The experiment was conducted in an efficient manner that allowed for the collecting of good, controlled, and randomized data. Once all the surveys were collected, each survey was entered into Google spreadsheet multiple times, each time by a different student. We then made sure every survey was entered identically through the use of if statements. This allowed for us to find errors in data and make sure the final data set was accurate. I then used this accurate set of data to produce a chart for each test. Through the use of if statements and VLOOKUP, I was able to produce charts that identified the results of the test. The blind taste test chart provided evidence that overall consumers preferred Shasta Twist. 7% of the consumers extremely liked Sprite, while 0% claimed they extremely liked Shasta Twist. 31% chose they liked very much Sprite, however 40% claimed they liked very much Shasta Twist. 36% chose they moderately liked Sprite, while 40% claimed they moderately liked Shasta Twist. 18% chose they liked slightly Sprite, while only 13% liked slightly Shasta Twist. 2% neither liked nor disliked Sprite, and 7% chose they slightly disliked Sprite as well as Shasta Twist. The results of the blind taste test support the idea that when people do not know what they are tasting, in many cases they will prefer the generic brand to the original or equally prefer the two. Therefore, consumers associate taste with a more expensive option. Sprite is more expensive than Shasta Twist. However, the blind taste test proves that Shasta Twist would be the ideal option due to providing equal satisfaction at a lower cost. The labeling taste test chart provided evidence that overall consumers preferred Sprite. Seven percent of consumers claimed they extremely liked Sprite as well as Shasta Twist. 38% of consumers chose they liked very much Sprite, while 29% liked very much Shasta Twist. 29% of consumers chose they liked moderately Sprite, while 36% chose they liked moderately Shasta Twist. 22% of consumers chose they liked slightly Sprite as well as Shasta Twist. 4% of consumers chose they disliked slightly Sprite, while 7% chose they disliked slightly Shasta Twist. The results of the labeling taste test support the idea that the consumer is more willing to favor a product based on labeling. Therefore, consumers associate better taste with a more appealing label. More consumers favored Sprite over Shasta Twist, even though they were tasting identical products, thus providing most consumers will purchase the product most appealing to the eye. The taste test we administered proved to support our claims.